Hello, and welcome again to another episode of the Market Stretch. Today, we're going to be looking at June 1st through June 5th in the markets, and it's welcome Saturday, June 6th. We usually record this on the weekend to give you an overview of what's happened in the market over the last week. Max Drew, CPA, coming out of Sacramento, California, bringing to you the yoga of investments, where once a week we take a healthy look at the stock markets to determine how the markets have been interacting over the last 5 days, 1 month, 6 months, and 1 year. And we look at the three major stock market index, starting out with the oldest one, which is about 141 years old, started way back in 1885, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which make up 30 large cap American companies that we look to, which generally indicate traditionally the overall health of the American equities market. We look at the S&P 500, which is about half the age of the Dow, coming in at about 70 years old, looking at 500 of the largest publicly traded American large cap companies, the 500 largest by market cap in the United States. And finally, coming in from an index companies on the second largest trading platform in the United States, which is the Nasdaq, the second largest exchange, which is the Nasdaq. It's the 100 largest market cap stocks in the Nasdaq that are non-financial. So today we're going to take a look at those three index and some of the top stories that are driving the markets over the last week. So thanks for joining me once again as we look at the yoga of the Dow. So for this month, we're going to take a look at the Dow Jones, the 1 day, which was Friday, down 1.35%. Oh my gosh. So that means if you had $100 in the index, you'd be down $1.35. Over the last 5 days, down only 0.58. So that means over the last 5 days, you would have only lost 58 cents compared to where you were 5 days ago or a week ago. And that's at $100. So that means the last 1 day we had a larger drop, but 5 days ago you were down a little bit less. Over the last 1 month, the stock market is up an amazing 1.92%. So in the last 1 month, if you had $100 invested in the market, you'd be up $1.92. Not too bad. If that happened every month, you'd be up about $24 almost in the market at almost 2% a month. Let's see how it actually played out. In the 6 months, the Dow Industrial Average was up 6.55%, so $6.55 on your $100 investment. And over the 1 year, let's supposing you had $100,000 in the market, you would be up 18.95% or $18,950. Not bad. Well, let's suppose you had $1 million in the stock market. Well, you would actually be up $189,500. Not too bad. So let's just figure out how to get that first 1 million in the market and then let the market start doing some of the heavy lifting for us. Okay, so that was the Dow Jones Industrial Average. The S&P 500, what do you think? Do you think it did a little bit better or maybe a little bit worse or about the same as the S&P 500? Now, most people are gauging that typical growth should be about 8% a year. So based on an 8% a year average, let's see if the S&P is keeping up with most people's expectations. Over the 1 day, down a devastating 2.64%, looking pretty rough over the 1 day in the S&P. Over the 5 days, down about the same. So it's been about the same for 5 days, 2.62%. So to put it in perspective, if you had $100 in the market, you would have lost about $2.62. All right. Well, not quite a sky is falling story, so go ahead and calm down a little bit, Chicken Little. But let's see what's happening in the 1 month. About even with just up slightly by 0.25%. So if you had $100 in the market, you would have made about 25 cents in the last 6 months, up an amazing 7.85%. So if you had $100 in the market, you would have made close to $8. And over the 1 year, an incredible 23.05%. So if the average growth was 8% a year, you would have seen almost 3 years of growth or appreciation over the last 1 year, because 3 years would be 24%, and we've got about 23.05%. To put that in perspective, if you had $100,000 in the market, you would have made about $23,000. And if you had $1 million in the market, you could have made about $230,050 in the market. So pretty good, pretty nice. Let's just figure out a way once again to get that first $1 million in the market and let the market start working for us. Now, the next thing we're going to look at is the top 100 non-financial stocks in the Nasdaq. Started looking at this index in 1984 when it was officially declared. Over the last 1 day, oh my gosh, demolishing devastation. The world is falling apart. Well, maybe not take it. It's just 1 day. Who knows? Because you know what? In the market, one thing we know is the markets will go down and come up. Some days are good days. Some days are bad days. But the last day was pretty rough in the Nasdaq 100. Down 4.77%. Okay, let's see how the 1 week went. At the 5-day mark, 4.42%. So almost all that loss was just in the last one trading day, Friday in the market. Last 1 month, up 1.25%. So over the last month, we've actually been positive, which is good. Over the last 6 months, up an amazing 12.99%. So over a year and a half's worth of growth at 8. Over the last 1 year in the market, we've been up an amazing celebration, jubilation, drum roll please, 33.07%. So at $100,000, we would have made $33,070. At $1 million, as Dr. Evil likes to focus on, we would have made $330,700 just by being in the Nasdaq 100. All right, what's the big stories been this week? Well, Bitcoin has reached quite a low compared to where it has been in the markets. Coming in right now, I'm looking at about $60,784 or $60,800, somewhere in that price range. And that's coming in from an all-time high. I believe it's been an all-time high around October 3rd at around 125,000. October 7th, 125,000. Now at less than 50% of that price, down to 60,000. Whoa. So it was down nearly that low in February. Had a little bit of a rally. It went down to in February. It looks like it was down to about 57,000 at one point in February. Let's see. Do I get that right? Excuse me. Actually, it might have been closer to 60,000. Sorry about that. And then once again, down today to about 60,000, 800, 900 in that range. Fluctuating every moment as we look at the chart. The 5-year, it's actually 5 years ago, it was coming in at around 34,000. So up over the 5 years, but down steeply over the 1 year, and above since around, let me take a look here. That's going to be September of 2024. So for about the last year, it's been fluctuating up and down over the last since 2024, pretty flat. The 1 year in Bitcoin has been, looks like it's been down overall over the last 1 year. Okay. So for Bitcoin enthusiasts, something to think about. All right. Other news stories. NVIDIA. Okay. New PCs, chips represent CEO Wang's spin to win at every level of AI. So let's see what the editors have here. Jensen Huang, the CEO of NVIDIA Core, presents the RTX Spark Superchip. Okay, so they're still inventing all kinds of new technologies, new chips. It's just crazy as you read what's going on there. Well, makers of PC Central's processing units or CPU and mobile phone chips sank on Monday. NVIDIA's stock popped more than 6% with a market cap of about $5.4 trillion. NVIDIA is worth more than any company on the planet and is almost $1 trillion above its closest U.S. peer. All right. Alphabet plans to raise more than $80 billion from stock sales to fund a new AI build-out. Broadcom's AI chip revenue more than doubles, but the stock sinks after earnings miss. AI semiconductors hit $10.8 billion in the quarter, up 143% year over year, but shares fell on an underwhelming AI chip forecast. All right, another AI story. AI after AI. Let's see if we can get onto something new here. Okay, Trump, once again, our president in the news, revives tariff plan. Okay, we're in for some more tariffs, citing forced labor in foreign countries. Okay, so what to know? President Trump plans to impose tariffs on 60 U.S. trading partners. Tariffs will be 10% on imports from Canada, Mexico, and the EU. Imports from China and other economies will face a 12.5% levy. The tariffs are subject to public comment and review until July 6th. So it looks like we got about a month to hear more about that. All right. UnitedHealth, which used to be the largest company in the Dow, which has fell steeply in prestige, was recently upgraded by Bank of America. So we do have a recommendation, something in the news. One of our formerly biggest company waiting in the Dow, which was UnitedHealth, has been falling, but now it may raise now that Bank of America has adjusted its rating for the company. Finally, for those who are admirers of what the U.S. might do in space and eagerly awaiting to possibly invest in a great company here, SpaceX is fixing its IPO roadshow price at $135, which would be a $1.75 trillion valuation. Okay, Elon Musk set a fixed price of $135 a share ahead of officially marketing its initial public offering, according to a filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission on Wednesday. All right, so why is this important? Well, I think it's going to be the largest IPO in history at that price. So it's going to be the biggest, if everything goes according to plan, the largest IPO in the history of the American stock market. All right. Well, that's it for a few ideas about what you might be thinking about if you're watching your portfolio. One of your questions might be, is my portfolio keeping up with the indexes and how might I do better? So if you're looking for an honest opinion about how you might improve your performance and how your performance benchmarks against the index, feel free to contact me. I'd be happy to have a no pressure, friendly conversation about how working with an investment advisor might assist you in making investment decisions and allocating your portfolio. Max Drew, CPA, coming out of Sacramento, California. Thank you for spending a few minutes today with me to look at the market stretch, the yoga of investment this week. Take care. God bless. See you in the next one.
Follow, message us, or scan the QR code on the screen to learn more.